Now, one of the great legal minds in this world is a guy named Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a liberal. Alan Dershowitz is not a guy that the GOP would normally call in to say, hey, can you back us up on this? And Alan Dershowitz was talking with Anderson Cooper last night on CNN, and they were discussing the 7-page statement that Comey put out that was his opening statement today. So the whole world saw the opening statement already. And in there, we have said there is no evidence of obstruction of justice, while the Democrats are all saying this is all obstruction of justice. At least the only guy who at CNN will say that is Jeffrey Toobin. And then every Democrat quotes Toobin saying, Toobin says it must be obstruction. But Alan Dershowitz gave us some great clarity on this.
Professor Dershowitz, you say this is not obstruction of justice by the president and that it actually strengthens his position against Director Comey. How so?
Well, first of all, let's look at the big constitutional picture. The president could have told Comey, you are commanded, directed to drop the prosecution against Flynn. The president has the right to do that. Comey acknowledges that. He says in the statement that historically, presidents have done that to the Justice Department.
So first of all, let's remember this. Historically, presidents have been able to tell the Justice Department and actually have told the Justice Department, stop this investigation. It's within the power of the president. It's the president's right. It's part of his executive powers. Dershowitz continues.
The last few years, we've had a tradition of separation, but that tradition doesn't create crime. Remember also what the president could have done. He could have said to Comey, stop this investigation. I am now pardoning Flynn.
Two important points there in what Dershowitz said. And one that's key is saying there was a tradition of separation between the executive branch and the Department of Justice, even though the head of the FBI and the Attorney General all serve at the behest of the president. But he said tradition does not make a crime. Tradition does not make a crime. A really key point there. And he did say that the president has the right to say, I'm pardoning Flynn. Therefore, there's no need for an investigation. End it here. Donald Trump didn't do that, but he had the power. Dershowitz continues.
That's what President Bush did. In the beginning of the investigation of Casper Weinberger, which could have led back to the White House to the first President Bush, on the eve of the trial, pardoned Casper Weinberger, pardoned 6 people, and Special Counsel Walsh said this is outrageous. He's stopping the investigation. Nobody talked about obstruction of justice. You cannot have obstruction of justice when the president exercises his constitutional authority to pardon, his constitutional authority to fire the director of the FBI, or his constitutional authority to tell the director of the FBI who to prosecute, who not to prosecute. So let's get out of the weeds and let's look at the big...
So there it is. From one of the most respected legal minds in the country who also happens to be a liberal. You cannot have obstruction of justice here. And what happened in no way was anywhere near obstruction of justice. So how will Chuck Schumer? How will Nancy Pelosi? How will Maxine Waters? How will all the hand-wringing Democrats deal with this? Well, you can bet they're going to keep hammering. They're going to keep hammering until they get something else that will slow down the process.